I'm Morgan Pehme, Editor-in-Chief of City and State, and this is Last Look. Today, our guest is Reverend Jacques de Graff, the first Vice President of 100 Black Men. Reverend, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a privilege and pleasure.
You are the co-chair of our second annual New Agenda MWBE event. What has transpired since the first event? I mean, last year we had the first forum with all of the mayoral candidates to participate. What was the outcome of that event?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And second, I think the event has now become a catalytic event. It's an event which causes other things to happen. Last year, all of the mayoral candidates at that time committed to creating a position in government of a chief diversity officer. The city council, Speaker Quinn, went a little further and passed legislation that created goals in every city agency, created reporting requirements, and then created a position in City Hall of a direct report to the mayor who would receive these reports and monitor agencies. So that when agencies fell short of goals, because that's what they've been doing, when they fell short of goals, they would have to come up with a plan to compensate for that and how they were going to get on par. In addition, the agencies that were doing well could publicize the fact that they were doing well. It represented a sea change in the way government functioned, and that legislation which passed and went into effect this year, we call it the sky's the limit, because it took the cap off minority and women-owned business opportunities. It put these city agencies on notice, and the city has been gearing up for that, and we're very excited that the first report is going to come out in October, and we're hoping that it will create a floor for the next administration rather than a ceiling.
Who are some of the participants this year in the New Agenda Conference?
Well, Scott Stringham, the Manhattan Borough President, is going to be there. And his importance, his significance is, one, he's got some very strong positions on MWBE advancement, but he also recognizes the role and value of the bully pulpit of the comptroller's office. If the comptroller just said to every person, every entity that does business, what does your board of directors look like? What does your senior management look like? Just the asking of the question will create a new awareness and new opportunities within company. If we followed the Rooney Rule, if you will, and that aspirants for positions in companies or on boards, they had to, as they were seeking new candidates, they interviewed 1 in 3. It would begin to change the complexion of those who would do business with the city of New York. So beyond opportunities for specific firms, and which he does support in programs that create that, and he's also created a position of he will create a position of chief diversity officer should he be elected comptroller. He'll be with us, and we're very excited about that. We're excited about the upcoming Super Bowl, as most New Yorkers are, because we're wondering where are the real opportunities. A lot of stuff seems to be PR hype as to what businesses actually benefit on the ground, because many of the businesses in other cities that benefited were not based in that city. And so we have a representative from the NFL who will be coming to address us. And then we have a variety of people, government leaders like Lorraine Grillo from the School Construction Authority, Larry Roman from WFD, a leading private sector construction firm, to talk about what's the state of the industry. What are the challenges that folks of goodwill want to do? Sometimes in the past, in issues of public policy, people tend to demonize people who have positions opposite or different than their own. This is an opportunity for people to come together in an important setting with not with like-minded individuals, but involved individuals, professionals, particularly on the cusp of a new change in New York, not just in the mayor's office, but in all the citywide elected, 2/3 of the city council, borough presidents. New York is about to enter the 21st century in a brand new way.
Last year, one of the kind of stated objectives of the conference was to pass the city council legislation that was ultimately passed. What are the objectives of this year's conference?
Well, I think we want to get the commitment of the next mayor to say, I believe in these things and I support them and I'm going to make sure that they happen. I'm not just going to have them happen. I'm going to make sure and assure that they happen because of my full faith and credit, if you have my personal political capital, to be involved. There are those who talk about the police commissioner being one of the most important appointments, and it certainly is, as is the school chancellor. We believe the chief diversity officer will be an important appointment because that person will ensure that all of New Yorkers participate in the economic engine that is the city. Here's what's going to happen, Morgan, in January, no matter who's elected. They're going to go to City Hall, they're going to say, oh my gosh, there's a $2 billion shortfall. And the story will be about the cuts. But even with the $2 billion shortfall, there'll still be a $68 billion budget. So we're keeping our eye on the prize. And we're saying that those opportunities properly spread. And when we say spread, not in a political patronage way, not in a social justice kind of way, in an economic way, we can do things that benefit all New Yorkers, spread the benefits to outer boroughs, to areas that had not participated in the prosperity of this city, create jobs, create real jobs, and then stabilize our tax base. So we think that this is a real important opportunity, and so we'll have discussion on the CDO position. We'll have discussions on policy with different people in the public and the private sector.
What are the implications beyond politics and government of the initiatives aimed at expanding MWBEs?
Well, I think that's a very important question. It really involves looking at who are we? Well, what does it mean to be a New Yorker? Is it only government's role, or is it really part of a larger discussion? More than one candidate has talked about a tale of two cities. It's not just the people who some say should have their taxes increased. It's really in and out. Are you in the discussion and at the table, or are you outside looking in? And so we think that more folks are brought to the table, the MWBE community, as responsible business leaders. There is no MWBE rent. There is no MWBE insurance. We have the same challenges that other businesses have, but we don't have a champion at the table to deal with our particular situations. And so some folks are able to give huge contributions to elected officials. They're able to hire full-time lobbyists and associations. And so now we're going to be able to be at the table and speak through this conference, which has now become an annual New York tradition. And people talk about what happens at this conference. People use this as a reference point, and then as a badge of courage to say, I was there, I spoke, I participated. So we're looking for big things to come from this, but it sets the table for the next administration. But more importantly, it sets the climate for what's going to happen in New York. Next year, the state legislature, the governor, and all the statewide run. When they start talking about their accomplishments, their objectives, we want this to be a reference point that people say, well, we heard about the disparity study. We heard this discussion on goals and programs. This is our position on that.
And the new Chief Diversity Officer of New York State is not going to be participating, but will be in attendance at the event. Is that correct?
Mecca Santana is a dynamic individual who I believe is going to have a bright future on the second floor in government. But she's also in her get to know you lap. And so she's been at the Board of Ed, and now she's stepping onto a bigger stage. And so we're delighted that she will be joining us to meet leaders, to hear the conversation, begin to develop positions, and then be a proponent of the governor's programs. The state's programs and the city's programs are radically different, and there's not a lot of attention paid to that difference.
What is the difference?
Well, the governor, as you recall from his original address to the state, said he's going to have a 20% MWBE goal, and everybody's in that goal. The cities took the disparity study and created goals per category. So there's a Hispanic goal, a WBE goal, a women goal, an African American goal, based on the results of the disparity study, which have been court ordered. So that means that in New York State, you could have 17% WBEs, women-owned firms get contracts. You could have 2% East Indian firms get contracts, and 1% Black and Latino, and they would have achieved the governor's goals. The composition of the state is different than that, number one. But two, the people who politically fought for these programs need to see a reflection of themselves in the results.
So which approach do you prefer?
I prefer the city's approach. Because I think that the issue is accountability. And while we are all equal in terms of our rights and equal in terms of the opportunity, and we can't you can't mandate results, but you can mandate that there are opportunities given to all, fair opportunities, and others have done it. And so I think we need to be assured that we're going to be in the mix at the end of the day.
Bill de Blasio did participate in our conference last year. Joe Lhota was not yet an announced candidate. Have you seen responsiveness on behalf of the two major mayoral candidates to MWBEs?
Well, I'll be particularly listening to Joe Lhota. I've seen Bill de Blasio, who took a very firm stand, as you know, in that first conversation, I was at a mayoral debate where I understood Joe Lhota to be saying that he doesn't believe in MWBE programs, even though they had that at the MTA while he was there, that he believes in if you support small business, you support everybody. And the fact of the matter is that just has never been the case. There's no government or municipality that can say that it supported small businesses, and by virtue of doing that, MWBEs were taken care of. In many instances, small businesses were taken care of, but MWBEs were not in the number.
Well, we'll be very interested to see what all the speakers say tomorrow. Reverend Graff, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And that's it for this episode of Last Look. For more episodes, please visit us on the web at cityandstateny.com. You can also go to our website to find out how to sign up for tomorrow's conference.